Okay, so we're diving into a topic today that most people try to avoid, even thinking about. Ugh, scabies. It's like this weird taboo, like nobody wants to admit they've had them, but it's way more common than we think.
Right. And on top of that, figuring out how to actually get rid of them, well, let's just say the usual methods aren't always that effective.
So in this deep dive, we're tackling those scabies head on. We're going to unpack what they are, how you get them, and why they're so hard to get rid of.
And hopefully give people the info they need to take action.
Absolutely. But before we get all tactical, let's start with the basics. What exactly are scabies?
Well, picture this. A microscopic creature burrowing into your skin, setting up shop, and basically eating you alive.
Okay, that's officially the stuff of nightmares.
Yeah, it's the human itch mite, or Sarcopta scabii to be exact. And the way these things reproduce is straight out of a horror movie, too.
Oh, great. Tell me more.
A single female mite burrows in, lays her eggs, those eggs hatch, and boom, the cycle starts all over again.
So you're constantly battling generations of these things. That's probably why it's so hard to knock them out completely. But this makes me think, since we're talking about a parasite, antibiotics are useless, right?
Antibiotics only work on bacteria, not parasites like these mites.
Okay, good to know. So we've met our enemy, but how do they even find us in the first place?
Well, one big myth is that you get them from pets, but that's not true. While animals can have their own types of mites, they can't survive on humans.
So no more blaming the dog then.
Nope. It really comes down to direct skin-to-skin contact.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about trying on clothes, like in a store? Could you get scabies that way?
It's not the most common way, but it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
So if someone with scabies tries on a shirt, and then you try on that same shirt a little while later...
Those little guys might see it as an open invitation.
Exactly. It's enough to make you think twice about that clearance rack.
You're telling me. All right, so we know what we're dealing with and how these little invaders get around. But now's the real question. How do we get rid of them? And why doesn't it always work? Those treatments you think should do the trick.
You're hitting on a big problem these days, and it's resistance. You know those permethrin creams? Those ones that everyone thinks of first?
Yeah, those are supposed to be the go-to, right?
Right, but here's the thing. Often, they just kill the adults, not the eggs.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, it's like you're squashing ants, but the nest is still there, laying more.
Ugh, so you think you've won, and then bam, a whole new generation pops up.
Exactly. And each time that happens, some of the ones left might get a bit tougher, like they're learning to deal with the permethrin.
It's like those super roaches that Raid just doesn't phase anymore.
Exactly. But we can't just keep using stronger and stronger stuff, especially with those chemical treatments. Some of the side effects are nasty. It's like picking your poison.
No kidding. I saw a list of those side effects once. So if the chemical warfare isn't the answer, what is?
Well, that's where things get kind of interesting. Some of the research points to, get this, essential oil.
You're messing with me, right? Like the aromatherapy stuff?
I know, right? Sounds too good to be true, almost. But they've been used for ages to fight off pests, like in farming and medicine, for a long, long time.
Okay, now I'm really curious. How does that even work? Are we talking like douse yourself in lavender and hope for the best?
It's a bit more thought out than that, but yeah, you're on the right track. This scabies killer product line, they use a two-step thing. First, enzymes to soften the skin so the oils can really get in there.
Strategic, set the stage, then send in the big guns.
Exactly. And the big guns are a mix of oils. Neem, clove, tea tree, that kind of thing. Stuff that's been used for centuries.
And these oils, they take out the adults and the eggs.
That's the idea. Plus, oils work so differently to those chemical insecticides that the mites are less likely to become resistant.
Okay, that's reassuring at least. But let's be real, when you've got scabies, patience isn't exactly something you have a lot of. How long does this whole process actually take?
Totally. And it's not instant, even with this method. Consistency is key. We're talking daily, sometimes even twice a day, depending on how bad it is.
Marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. Could be weeks to completely get rid of them. Good news is oils are generally pretty gentle. You can use them as much as you need without those harsh side effects you get with the chemical stuff.
That is a huge plus. But we've talked a lot about treating you, but what about your stuff? Your environment? They're not just hanging out on your skin 24/7, are they?
You're totally right. Treating your environment is just as important as treating yourself. Remember that horror movie analogy?
Please don't remind me.
Aha, relax, no gore this time. But think about it, it's like a contaminated crime scene. You got to clean it up.
Yep.
Bedding, furniture, clothes, anything you've touched could have mites or their eggs on it,
Full decontamination.
basically. And it's not that hard, really. Hot wash everything. Bedding, clothes, anything that can handle it.
And hot means H-O-T. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. No shortcuts here. We gotta crank up the heat and make those mites really uncomfortable.
makes sense. But what about stuff you can't wash, like furniture or mattresses?
So for that, you gotta get a little more creative. Vacuuming is a great start, but to really get into all the nooks and crannies, you might want to look into specific sprays and powders that are designed to kill mites.
Like diatomaceous earth. I've heard of it, but no idea what it actually is.
Sounds like something out of Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually a natural powder made from fossilized algae. And here's the cool part. Those fossilized remains, they're like shards of glass to mites. They crawl over them, get tiny cuts, and, well, you get the picture.
Well, nature can be brutal.
It sure can, but it's all about understanding your enemy and using their own biology against them.
So we've covered what scabies are, how you get them, and why they're so hard to get rid of. It seems like knowledge is power when it comes to these little guys. But after reading all these articles and testimonials, I gotta say, I was starting to feel a bit overwhelmed. Is there any hope?
Absolutely. And one thing that's really encouraging is just how common this experience is. It's easy to feel alone when you're dealing with scabies, but tons of people have been there, done that, and come out on the other side.
Okay, that does help. But that brings up something that's been bugging me. We've got these traditional treatments, the creams and stuff, and then the essential oils, which, let's be real, have been around forever. So why aren't more people using oils for this if they work?
$1 million question right there. And like most things, there isn't one easy answer, unfortunately.
Figured as much.
Well, for one, medicine, it can be slow to change, especially if something isn't brand new, like fresh out of the lab. They like their fancy new drugs.
Makes sense, new drugs, they get all the testing and trials and stuff, which takes time. Well, that's about it for our deep dive into the surprisingly complex world of scabies. We've covered a lot, from how these little creatures operate to the treatments and what we can learn from those who've been there.
Knowledge is power. That's the big takeaway. You're not alone. There are ways to fight back and win back your peace of mind.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And for anyone out there who thinks they might be dealing with this, don't wait. Get checked out. The sooner the better.